Hey everyone, this video is going to be about how to move your hive or move your main fort. Now, KOA has kind of changed the territory view and like the fort view. So if you're in territory view like I am now, you don't see which fort is the main fort, but we can see that these two forts in the blue territory here, this is the current alliance that I'm in. The two forts are pretty well spaced apart. So if you go to Kingdom Map, you only see the one fort, and that's hidden back here. I don't want to press it yet because it might take me there, but it's hidden back there by all of the other icons. Now, on the bottom, you can see Alliance Fortress is that symbol, the green one that's kind of hiding. So I'm going to click on it. Oh, there we go. So that is at 634-1008. We go there. That's the main fort location. And we can confirm this location by going to Alliance, Territory, and then Territory again. We've got 634-1008 being the first fortress here, and then the other fortress being 637-1061. So first fortress is here. Now, what we want to do is we want to move the hive or move the first fortress. So what we want to do is we want to go and move it over here, which if you look at the map, is on the other side of all of this other territory from the current hive. It's way over there. So what you have to do, in this alliance only has 2 forts right now because they're not alliance level 10 yet. But what you do is you kind of have to rotate your forts, because if you just demolish this fort and then place it over in the new hive, that does not rotate your first fort. So this fort over here will still remain number 1, and therefore, while you may all be over here and your new hive may be over here by this fort, you're going to have to travel all the way over here to do events like Fallen Knights. So what you do is you go to the second fort, and if you have 3 forts, it doesn't really matter which fort you go to, you just want to make sure you move one of the forts to the new hive location first. So this one is, you can see the territory isn't great here, does not have a lot of coverage, so we want to keep the territory intact. So by doing that, you place a tower to cover the territory that the demolished fort will lose. So place a tower here, and then also over here to connect the territory, so you don't gray out your entire territory. That would be terrible. And for this alliance, I did step-by-step instructions in a chat for how to do it. So I laid it all out for them. So you place a tower at those 2 locations, like I just said. Then you abandon that fort. And then you go to step 4, and you place that fort you just abandoned at the new hive location. So that is going to be over here, like I showed you, in that location. So you place the new fort there, and that will keep all of your territory, well, in this case blue, but it will keep all of your territory intact for when you abandon the other fort. So then going to step 5, because of their hive, they have a couple of people that are in the way of towers. So we'll go to their hive, and we want to make sure when we abandon their fort number 1 that we still keep their territory over here. So we want to place a few towers, and I gave them a couple of coordinates, but you can see on the map here, we just want to make sure that we are covering the territory that the fort would have covered when we'd abandon it. So making sure we touch the towers that are surrounding the current fort. Okay, so next step, we have the tower locations, and then we once we have the tower locations set up and our territory isn't going to gray out when we abandon fort, then we abandon that first fort. So we have, let me go back to it. By this time we have a fort over here and our old fort, our old first fort. So we're going to abandon that fort, and that will give us one, for this alliance, that'll give us one fort for all of the territory. So once we abandon this one, that is going to make our new fort over here be fort number 1, or the main fort for events. And that's the important bit. You want to abandon that first fort in order to rotate your fort priority, I guess. So that's really what we're doing here, and I'll show you in my actual alliance how to do it with 3 forts. So before I move on, I just want to say that once they have abandoned their first fort, this fortress that they're going to place here becomes their first fort, then they have a solid territory line, so they don't have to place another fort. But if you're in a warring kingdom, or you just don't want to take the risk, then you can place that fort, the second fort, anywhere. It doesn't have any consequence to placing it either over here or what have you. But just in case, I recommended that they put it back over here in their original fort area. So they would abandon the one that's currently there, so it rotates the first fort, and then they just replace the second fort over here, so they just have a connection to all of the old territory that they have, in case somebody were to maybe destroy that line or something. Okay, here is my actual alliance. This is our territory. We've got our 3 forts. This one down here at 532 13 18 is our fort number 1, and I know that because I did this whole process. I'm the one that moved our hive from over here to over here for better placement at the time. And if you go to the kingdom map, it's even harder to see, so we won't even use that. But here it is. This is our hive, and this is our main fort number 1. Now, if I wanted to move it, then I would go through the same steps, but because we have 3 forts, we have to do it with all 3 forts. So it was 532 13 18. This was fort number 1. And KOA does not tell you which fort is which. Maybe this rotates throughout whenever you place them. That might be the only indication. I don't know. I don't remember. But what you have to do is you just have to abandon and replace until you get the right one. So if we wanted to make this fort number 1, we would abandon this one, try and use the map to see if that fort will take us to that fort icon, if it will take us to this fort or this fort. That will indicate which one is priority, and then depending on if it is or not, we have to abandon this one and replace it, so it rotates that first fort. Now if you wanted to move the fort, fort number 1, like let's say we wanted our hive over here, we would abandon this one, This is a little easier. Abandon that one, place it over here, and then you just abandon this one and abandon this one. Replace them, of course, but because you've already placed number one, the desired number one fort over here, it will rotate the first fort, and then eventually once you've abandoned this one and abandoned that one and replace them, then this one will become number one. Now I know that's kind of confusing and I apologize, but yeah, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I will try to answer them. Another thing I wanted to go over with territory management is if you're in a peaceful kingdom, this is a whole lot easier. But if you're lacking towers, with one of the most recent updates, KOA has allowed you to place a tower outside of your territory as long as it touches your territory. So I'll show you over here. Let's say in the old version, I wanted to cover this space. I would have to place a tower here in order to grow my territory this way, because the new tower had to be in my old territory. Now with the new update, as long as it touches even a little bit, I can still place it because it touches my territory, but to make it even, I would place a tower there, because you can see on down here and over here, it touches the territory. So that's a place that I am allowed to place a tower. So what I'm doing, that might be helpful for fast growth within warring kingdoms as well. But what I'm doing in our peaceful kingdom is I'm rearranging our territory, so we're using the towers to the best of our abilities. So expanding and also for merit. So here you can see I've already started, and my friend Pea Shooter, he really started this a long time ago, so I'm kind of just picking up where he left off. But you can see the territory here. The tower, there's no tower in between the territory lines. Like normally if you were building your territory, there would be a tower here and it would touch this one, but the territory lines touch and this is a good example here. On the right hand, or on the left hand side, here's where the tower is. On the left, it comes right up to the right hand side of that iron mine. And this tower goes on the right hand side as well. So that territory line is touching, therefore there's no break in our territory. But like if you look down here, this is where we're currently rearranging. We have perfect placement here, perfect placement here, but then there's that extra territory or extra tower. We don't need that, so we're going to abandon it, but we don't want to lose any of the territory that it's touching. So our next tower is here. That will cover that empty space, and once that's placed, then I can abandon this tower over here and use it somewhere else. So this is our next tower, and then it comes right up to the edge of that tower down on the left and the barb camp. So the next tower is going to go right there. So it completes that territory line, and then that means I can get rid of probably this tower and that tower to use elsewhere as well. So I did a little experimenting in another farm, thanks to Feka, and it looks like you don't need to cover your territory with towers if you're going to be moving your fort. Because if you look here, the fort is not even touching inside the territory. And it's still able to be placed as long as the border is touching. So the only reason why you would want to place towers where your old fort is in case it's along a thin line of towers and you don't want to break territory. This is a good example right here. Like if the fort was there and those 3 towers weren't there, and you wanted to demo that fort, then you'd have to place those towers so your line doesn't break. But other than that, as long as your fort is touching your territory, you don't have to place it inside of your territory, as long as it's touching the border.
King of Avalon, play now.